Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me, and I am back with another video. Hope you guys are doing well. A little bit of a break in my usual content schedule, and I had some free time and decided to do something fun. So while we're in between major transits that are going on, I wanted to create a video that is an unboxing video for my new tarot deck. Now, if you guys like this content, you want to see more of it, or if you want to see more kind of creative stuff as I pepper it in here and there, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Click the bell button below so you can see more of my videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays. We incorporate tarot and astrology on this channel, and maybe you guys are getting a little bit more tarot this week than usual. But I'm excited to be here today. I finally get to unbox something that has been a labor of love and super special. This is my very first tarot deck that I've created, titled The Sword and the Rose. So some of you guys have been following the journey. I've talked about it a little bit on my socials, and I've also obviously been incorporating the deck a little bit into my readings this last month. And I think it's a pretty fun project. So obviously it's been a creative labor of love. It's been a process and a little messy, but I hope you guys enjoy it and you enjoy the video that I have for you today. I'm working off of just kind of an outline, so I make sure that this is not like a 2-hour video. But we're gonna kind of go in a sequence of order. My goal today is to talk to you guys a little bit about the deck, how it came about, what it looks like. We're gonna unbox it. I'm gonna talk to you about what went into it, some of the influence, and my whole process. So I hope you guys enjoy that. And I guess the question is, when it comes to approaching making the deck, I guess for me it was kind of, well, okay, why am I making this deck? So I wanted to answer some of those questions. Honestly, this really started as a personal challenge for me. I've collected over 70 decks over the last 20 years. I have been an avid tarot collector. I'm also a tarot reader. I use intuitive tarot in my readings. And I thought that it would be really fun to do something that was my own. So obviously I'm tarot obsessed, but I only work with about 3 different tarot decks on the regular. I'm a user of the traditional Rider-Waite kind of system. You guys have seen me use those cards. I'm also obviously a big fan of anything that's like classy and traditional. So I was thinking to myself a couple months back, I was like, could I actually create a deck that I personally would reach for every day? So this project really started more about proving to myself that I could do this more than anything else. There was really no grand plan to like sell 1 million copies of this deck. It was really just me and my ideas and a ton of like late night brainstorming. So that's basically where this started. So I don't know, those of you guys who are creatives, I wonder if you guys have ever taken on projects like that just for the thrill. So if you have, definitely give me some feedback and let me know that I'm not the only crazy one out there. But when it came to the inspiration of this particular deck, I wanted something that was classy. Obviously, I'm Libra rising. I have a stellium of planets in my 2nd house. So I wanted something that was not only going to be elegant, but also top-notch quality. And I was hoping to kind of create something that was like whimsical and Victorian and something that had a little bit of a modern twist. So I'm kind of a sucker for those kind of era vibe decks, particularly things that are a little bit more romantic looking. So anything lacy, stuff with flowers, and maybe a little bit of like mystery that's kind of peppered in there as well. Now, the Sword of the Rose, came up for me actually about a year ago. So if you guys saw my Venus retrograde webinar that I did in Aries, I was talking about my experience going and buying bottles of wine. I'm notorious for picking wines based off of their labels. Silly, I know, but it's worked for me. So while I was picking out wine, I actually saw on a bottle, it said, quote, she never wanted the knight, she wanted the sword. And that really stuck with me. I was like, wow, I really love that. And it kind of was in the back of my mind. And as I was creating the deck, I was like, well, I want a lot of flowers in there. And obviously there's going to be all of these knights and swords and other things going on. So putting it together, it kind of hit me like a thunderbolt. And I was like, wow, okay, she didn't want the knight, she wanted the sword. And boom, that was the name. So for me, the sword obviously is one of the elements that's in the deck. It's one of the 4 suits, but it was more about the sharp intellect and also the power. And then the rose is about soft emotions, and it's about beauty and like feminine qualities. So I wanted a deck that was going to blend those 2 together. And I think really it really weaves the story of the tarot deck and its dualities, both strength and gentleness, but also challenges that can lead to growth. So I found that it's like a deck that's really, charged with energy, but it's also very delicate. So I think it's great for personal readings. It's great for getting deep insights and really kind of connecting with some of the images on the deck. Now, when it comes to the creative process, this has taken me several months to create this deck. And it's been a lot. I'm not the most organized person, so it really was starting with a lot of mood boards and me compiling tons of backgrounds and materials that I liked and different edging and frames and images that was going to serve as the inspiration for the deck. And really the way that I approached this was sitting down and creating like a storyline or, writing out, okay, this is what I want this deck to look like. This is the scene that I want to create. This is how I want this to kind of go in sequential order and essentially tell a story. So I really started with the major arcana. I wanted to see how that process was going to kind of go, how it was going to flow. And that's how I dipped my toes in. And one thing I will say is that I am a major perfectionist. So I feel like a lot of this deck for me was trial and error. It was a lot of me going through it and being like, nope, that frame looks wonky, or no, I don't like this text, or no, I need to scrap this image altogether and start over and delete it. So there was a lot of that was going on, but I eventually kind of got the hang of it one by one. And once I finished the major 22 Arcana cards, I feel like I was hooked. And card by card, suit by suit, I just couldn't stop. So I kept it going. Now, I'm a tarot reader for the better part of the last 20 years. I actually picked up my first deck when I was a teenager. I immediately became hooked and fell in love with tarot. And the way that I have traditionally learned how to read tarot is looking at the cards in order in the spread and kind of reading it as a story or looking at it as a frame by frame if it were a part of a movie. So I read the cards like a storyline that you would see that would, tell this whole, story and bring it together almost like a novel. And I really focused on making the deck very beautiful, very visual, and I wanted to be kind of like storytelling with its drive. Obviously, you're going to notice when you see some of the images that even though it is this kind of classic Victorian look, it has also got a bit of a modern flair to it. So I wanted to create images that were going to be very visually striking. I wanted to really focus on the elements that are connected to the colors. So that way you can tell the different suits and the mood based off of the different cards. And you're going to see that modern flair, and it's still kind of paying homage and giving a nod to the traditional Rider-Waite deck. But something that I felt that was really important while I was making this deck is I didn't want to feel chained to the original Rider-Waite. I wanted to be able to have a little bit of creative freedom. I didn't want it to look like something that is out there, that's already on the market. And I also really wanted to focus on getting outside of the box, obviously pun intended, and having fun. I think that was the most important part of the process for me. It was more about creating something that was going to be more original and different. And originally, this was supposed to be for my readings. So it was kind of like an experiment. So I figured, why not? Now, throughout the process, it really tested my design skills. Truth be told, I do not come from a design background outside of making my, my calendars that I do annually, my print calendars, which I design all of those. If you guys haven't seen those, check them out. That's pretty much the existence of what I have done in terms of design and print. But I've always been somebody who's big on creating collages and like mood boards and visuals and, screensavers and things connected to obviously any other stuff that you guys have seen me do on my channel. So when you see me put together my horoscopes or anything that's got visuals and images and stuff, that's me doing that. I'm the person who's putting it all together. I am a part of a two-person team. You don't see Oz here, but my husband is the one who does all the production, all the editing, all the filming. He's the one managing all the YouTube and doing that. So together, I felt like we had the capability of being able to utilize, I think, our strengths and our talents and try to create something that was going to be really fun. It's also really tested my tarot knowledge, which is interesting because I've been reading for a very long time. In the past, some of you guys have been following me for a long time since I lived in Los Angeles. I started, doing readings there out of my house, out of my home, which then transpired into getting into a small office space, which then transpired into me quitting my day job, which then allowed me to be able to do readings full time. I worked for a period of time at a metaphysical shop for several years where I was not only doing readings, but I was also teaching tarot. So I've been teaching tarot for at least 10 years. I also have a background where I have been consulting for people who design apps. So whether they're creating apps to do live readings or they're wanting to do tarot apps that's giving you information or digital readings, I've done that as well. So I have a pretty strong background, I think, in working with tarot, being able to consult. However, nothing was as challenging as this project. It really tested things for me. And hey, obviously, you know, working for yourself is going to be twice the work, but I feel like it's made the whole process so much more rewarding. And I think that it's definitely been worth it in retrospect now, a couple months down the road. I have had some feedback from some people. It's been really great. I've also heard from some people that are in the process of creating their own decks. So if that's something that you're doing, I definitely recommend going for it. Just make sure you guys stock up on coffee because it's a never-ending project. Now, when it comes to printing the deck and everything that's kind of happened since then, that has been quite the adventure because it took me a long time scouting the internet, reading lots of Reddit forums on people who have opted to create and design their own decks and print them, what that process looked like. Was I going to do it in the United States? Was I going to do it overseas? Where was I going to get the biggest bang for my buck without kind of cutting on quality? And I think that that's been something that has been a huge focus for me. Like I said, I wanted to create something that I would buy. I also know after collecting decks that there are lots of decks that you can collect, but it may not be something you work with every day. So you can maybe get something that's visually stunning, but maybe not the highest quality cardstock. And if you're like a tarot hound like me, cardstock is going to be important. I don't think there's a single day that goes by that I do not pick up a tarot deck. I mean, in years, I'm working with them every day because I'm writing content, I'm creating videos, I'm doing readings for clients, you know, 3 or 4 days a week. I need something that's not just going to look good, but it's going to actually stand up, and it's not going to be, you know, too thick or too thin or something that's going to bend and crease. So that's been colorful. I wanted to create something that was going to be, you know, I guess like moderately priced, but also something that was going to last and kind of stand up over years of use. One of my biggest worries also was I going to vibe with the final deck? And I think that I didn't anticipate like thinking about that until I got into it. I was like, man, you know, I got to like maybe card number 50 something. And I remember thinking to myself, is this actually going to be a deck that I'm going to use? Because I'm a creature of habit, you know, I'm a Scorpio, I'm a fixed sign. So I like to use the same things on a regular basis. And would it be something that would be clear? You know, obviously a deck is going to be an extension of your energy, and it's going to be a tool in the, you know, like intuitive process. So I wondered, would it actually provide clear clarity in the readings? What's its personality going to be like, right? Is it going to be sassy or is it going to be serene? I have tons of decks that are beautiful decks that I love that I've maybe opened, you know, 2 or 3 times. And other than that, they kind of live and reside in their boxes or in my closet, primarily because they're collectible decks and they're decks that I don't want to bend and I don't want to kind of mess up. But also there's certain decks that are going to be called for during certain readings. Now, sometimes you guys see me feature different decks on this channel. Not sponsored by anybody. I really just use the decks that I really enjoy, that I find that are going to be appropriate for the types of readings. I know other readers are going to have certain decks that they want to use for relationship readings versus annual readings, or things that are, you know, going to be more connecting to getting messages from the other side, or you name it. So I wanted something that was going to be, I think, appropriate for general everyday use and readings that would be helpful, and also something that was going to be super clear. And obviously then there's the business side of it, which is, you know, how am I going to fund this project? Am I going to try to crowdfund it, you know, show some of the images and try to see if people want to pre-order decks and if they want to, you know, basically give funds to the project to help get the project up and running? Or did I want to self-fund it? And so I thought about that for a while. Ultimately, what I decided to do is we self-funded the deck. We actually bulk ordered and had them printed, and they are now residing in a warehouse, and we are having them shipped out as the orders roll in. So as you guys are seeing this, we are about 3 or 4 days into sales. We've sold half of the stock, so I think that off the bat for me is really great and surprising. Remember, going into this, I had very low expectations. So now we're sitting at around 40 decks that are left. So I'm thrilled with that. I think that's really great. If you guys like my deck, if you want to support me, definitely check it out. You can get a copy of this deck in the link below. You can head over to my Etsy store, which is just BTV Astro, and I'm going to be using that for some of my other prints, or if I do other things in the future. And yeah, definitely check it out. I would say if you guys have an interest in picking one up, and you're wanting to get it as a Christmas gift, or if you're wanting to give it to somebody as a gift, or you want it before the holidays, I recommend ordering the deck before December the 5th. Reason being is because of shipping, and we've got people who are buying from all over the world, which is cool. Some of you guys are getting it from Canada. We've got orders coming in from Australia, from parts of Europe, and obviously all over the United States. So some of you guys are going to get it quicker than others. It is looking like it takes somewhere around 10 to 13 business days to actually get the deck. So I recommend ordering as soon as possible if that's something you want. Now, not necessarily just because of the timing, but the other way that I approach this also, both from a standpoint of, hey, this is my first project, let's see how it goes, and also cost. We only printed 100 decks, so that's all that we printed. There will not be any more of this particular deck that's going to be printed again. Primarily because, I just wanted to see how it would go, but also I wanted to create something that was not just going to be this like mass purchase, hey, let me get it into bookstores, let's do this and let's do that. I wanted to see how the first round would go. So let's do an unboxing of the deck. We'll talk a little bit about the deck and the specs. Obviously, this is the fun part and the reveal. This is the moment of truth, so we'll unbox this beauty. But what you guys need to know first is this is a standard tarot size. So this is the same standard size that you're going to see on most tarot decks that you're going to see on the market. Obviously, easy to handle. When I designed this, I opted to go with a tuck box only because I felt like the design that I created was going to be better for a tuck box other than doing one that is going to be a box where you take the top off. And let's see what else. It's easy to handle. We designed everything. So the box we designed, obviously creating this like wax press that we have a sword and a rose on. And then we created the logo that's on the front. I think it's kind of classy. My best friend said it reminds her of Beauty and the Beast, which I think is kind of funny. Like I can see that now. And you've got the side where we've got a sword and we've got a rose, and it's got the sword and the rose logo. And then on the side you have got my name, and then Beyond the Veil. And then we also have at the bottom of the deck, at the bottom of the box, we have the Sword and the Rose title, first edition. So my intention was, because I appreciate decks that are nice decks that every so often, the artist will go back and they'll update and change the back of the cards, or maybe they change the foil, or maybe they change and add like a bonus card. So I made first edition because this is the first one. You do see at the bottom there is a QR code that you can actually scan. It says scan me on the box, which is going to allow you to have an access to the tarot guide booklet that I created. I did it because number one, once again, I'm trying to cut costs so that way the deck is going to be as affordable for you guys as possible. Number two, I think it's more environmentally friendly to have something that's digital versus having a booklet that's going to be printed and just creating more materials. And number three, I personally get so agitated getting a tarot box when you get the little pamphlet, because I'm not somebody who's going to reference the booklet, but I understand a lot of people do, especially if you want to have specific meanings to that deck of cards. But it drives me crazy trying to stuff the cards in there when you have like the little pamphlet, you know what I'm saying? So I thought it'd be cool to do it digital. And it also gives me a little bit more freedom to kind of get creative with what that looks like versus just having like a really small, kind of piece of paper that is probably going to get torn up. So yeah, you can scan the QR code. It's going to take you to the guidebook, which is packed with all kinds of information. So it's going to be pretty standard. I go through, ideas for the spreads. There's different spreads that are in there that I recommend. And I also talk about how to get creative with making your own spreads. I do a deep dive on all of the suits. And also we have for every individual card, full and the reversed meanings. There's astrological ties to it, timing, whether or not it's a yes, no in terms of an answer. I don't skimp on the information when it comes to all of the cards. I want to make sure that you guys have as much information as possible to get clarity from being able to decipher its meanings, both upright and reversed. I do a little bit of an intro. I briefly talk about the history of tarot. I also discuss how to care and manage your deck, where to store it, how to charge it, how to keep it well taken care of. And if you follow those instructions, likely this will be a deck that you'll be able to keep for years. Now, I also go in depth and talk a little bit about the process of doing readings, how to wake up the deck, how to, open sacred space before you do your readings, the list goes on. So it's pretty lengthy. I know I couldn't, like, you guys know me, I always have a ton of information. So I try to keep it as condensed as possible. But yeah, there is an image of each and every one of the cards as you go through the guidebook. Now the cards overall, in terms of the, you know, the deck itself, like I'm a long time reader. So for me, when I made this deck, I wanted to make something that I would buy in a heartbeat. I opted to print the cards on high quality casino linen stock. So this is not flimsy. It's not average stuff when it comes to tarot cards. And those of you guys who collect, you know, you can kind of get like that almost cardboard stock, paper-like thickness, and it can be kind of waxy, and it can also be something that if you shuffle a certain way, they bend, and once they bend, you're going to see a crease on them. And I didn't want to do that. I personally have not seen very many tarot decks that's using casino linen. It's not smooth. There's actually going to be a little bit of a material. You can see the linen in it. And they're just like what you would see in casinos, or when you're using, you know, a regular kind of card deck if you're playing poker or you're playing blackjack. So it's not flimsy. It shuffles like a dream. The cards are going to hold up very well against wear and tear, and that was going to be important for me because I want to make sure it's something that if I use all the time, it's not breaking down. Now the edges do have a bit of a sparkle, as you guys can see. Now there's only 100 of the decks that are printed. I have several of the prototypes that are kind of, or the samples that are floating around. So as you guys look at this, my deck that I have here is actually copper. So I opted to have copper on the outside, primarily because I like it. It's like kind of like a rose gold, but also I was sampling and looking at different decks with different cardstocks, with different colors. And this is the original, I guess, the final deck. So if you guys get a deck, it's going to look just like this. It's going to be the same size, the same cards, but there is going to be more of a golden hue. So it's not going to look as coppery for you guys, but if you go and look at the listing, you can see a video and you can see imaging of these cards and see what I'm kind of talking about. But it adds an extra sparkle because why not add a little bit of bling, right? So what you're going to get when you get the deck is you're going to get 78 cards. So it's going to be a full 78 card deck like the traditional Rider-Waite. There is an extra face card that you guys are going to get. It's just basically for those of you guys who are deck collectors. It does say that, the title on it, and it also has my little quote. And it also has, this is one of 100 decks printed. So it's basically, you know, verifying, hey, you have one of the original 100 that were printed. This version won't come back. So my whole goal is to see how this sells, see how it does. If it does well, then I'll consider in the future coming back and changing the face cards or the front of it, creating a new design or a new pattern, updating some of the cards, probably changing some of the color on the foil, changing the box even. But like I said, this, once it sells, it's gone. So I think that the deck itself is gorgeous. I love the quality. I really like what we kind of created with the face card, obviously, the chalices that are, you know, kind of surrounded with a rose wreath. We've got swords there. We've got also little motifs of the logo on the corners, and we've also got pentacles that are there as well. And it's all tied into the theme of obviously the sword and the rose. So it's got these kind of subtle, elegant kind of qualities to them. Now, I'm going to show you guys some of the cards. We're not going to do all of them, but you're probably going to see more here than what you've seen in some of my other videos combined. So let's start with taking a look at maybe some of the majors and kind of show you what I've got here. I'm going to flip through some of them and then we'll take a look and see what you guys think. And I'll talk a little bit about maybe each of the cards and some of the influence. And I'm going to start with the major arcana. So you guys will see how I kind of blended some of the kind of Victorian, but stuff that's like whimsical, things that are a little bit more modern when it comes to like the twists. And each card has like, I feel like a different story, part of the storyline, or like a different vibe. So I'll start here with the Fool. All right, so we've got the Fool card. Obviously you have to have the Fool and his full garb. He's got his white rose. He's got his little doggy friend next to him. He's standing, you know, kind of looking at mountains, getting ready to start his journey. So he is this kind of whimsical Victorian traveler, kind of at the edge of a cliff. And the inspiration here was really about taking a leap of faith. It was that feeling of, oh, okay, what are we getting ready to kind of like unleash? What are we beginning? And obviously, unlike the strict Rider-Waite, you know, I decided to kind of add some different things that are kind of going on in the background, but trying to stay true to some of the colors and some of the themes that kind of come up with that, just with a little bit more of like a modern twist. Let's see. So we've got the Magician, which this is one of my favorite cards. The Magician obviously is all about manifesting, and mine has a little bit more of a Victorian twist. You see he's got his table with all of his, you know, instruments. So he's got his pentacle, he's got his wand in his hand, everything that's there for him to make magic happen. And I wanted to draw inspiration from a magician that's more like an alchemist or a Victorian kind of alchemist. And I think that this is a cool card because it's empowering. You've also got lots of different flowers and other things that are going to kind of correlate with that energy that are going to be around him. We've got the High Priestess, which is also one of my favorite cards. Actually, let's just do individuals so that way you guys don't see a messy pile. We've got the Magician, the High Priestess. I love that I was able to tie in the moon that was more through the tapestry rather than at her feet. We've got the black and white pillars. She's got the scroll in her hand. Love the material and how it kind of like shines here. And then also bringing in the pomegranates, which are wrapped around the column. The Empress card. Sorry guys, the Empress. Let's see, we've got the Emperor. And when you really look at the cards and you kind of get in there and you see what he's got going on, like the ram that's going to be tied into his chair and holding the same objects that you would see in the traditional Rider-Waite, and kind of putting him in what seems to be like a castle or something that's going to be outside, showing you all of like the sky and everything and the mountains behind him. We've got the Hierophant. So you still see the similar hand gestures. You've got two people that are coming in, lots of imaging with like stained glass and things that are behind him, very visual. So it's almost like you've got people coming and, you know, praying or getting information from the Hierophant, like in a church setting. This is one of my favorite ones, the Lovers. So I did put clothes on everybody, by the way. I know like the Rider-Waite deck, you see a lot of people who are like nude, but I tried to keep it very tasteful. Obviously the scene is in a garden, so I thought it would be cool to bring that energy of like Adam and Eve, the lovers, together, but also kind of pay homage to the Garden of Eden. So I put like a snake in the background that's kind of like wrapping around. You see the angel that's kind of coming down. They're kind of entering the garden and kind of feeling like, ooh, there's this modern flair, but also it's like a little bit more like etheric with some of the lighting. We've got the Chariot, which obviously is quite different. You still have the black and white horse. I wanted to have some of the cards, especially when you see horses or anything that's going to be involving like travel or movement. I wanted the scenes to really appear like it was something that was like an action scene. So you see a lot of the stuff in the background that's kind of blurred out, but he's still got his like starry canopy going on over the chariot. You see him, you know, sitting there getting ready to get where he's going. And I like the idea of it kind of being like the sun was going down, or it was kind of be like either daybreak or kind of the end of the day. So you can see that he's like coming or going from somewhere, and that there is changing kind of elements from night to day because of the connection that we have with Chariot and Cancer or the moon. We've got the Strength card, which is pretty standard. I did want it to look, I think, more realistic. I mean, that's what I wanted to do with a lot of the images. Obviously, the traditional Rider-Waite, you only really see certain things in certain dimensions, so it doesn't really come to life the same way that I think some of these cards would. We still got the Infinity. We've got the Maiden with the crown in her hair, embracing and you know, taking on the lion. We've got the Hermit card, which is kind of cool. You see that he's got his lantern. It's snowy all around him. He's outside. He's got his kind of cloak and his hood on and his staff. I like this. It kind of reminds me of, what is it, from Lord of the Rings. Thou shalt not pass. That was kind of the vibe and like the inspiration that I used for using this design for the Hermit card. The Wheel of Fortune, I thought would be cool to do something different. I did not like the idea of just throwing all of the different animals and all of the different symbols up into the corners. I wanted it to be something that was going to be more, I think, like fantasy-like. I also like the idea of kind of playing with the shapes of the wheel and having almost like a moon that would kind of go around the wheel that would hold it. And I wanted it to have all of this, like these clouds and things making it look like it was coming to life. And obviously we added some flowers and some other things here too as well. We've got the Justice card, obviously another one of my favorites. Really wanted to try to stay true to some of the symbolism and the colors of the original Justice card. But we added a little bit of a touch of some other things. So she's got her scales, she's got her sword, obviously for intellect, communication, got to pay homage to Libra. And thought it would be cool to put her between pillars and put her in this bright red garb. And she looks pretty serious, but she's got a crown too. So she looks very, I think, regal. We've got the Hangman, which is definitely a little bit more of like a modern spin. I thought it would be cool, instead of making it look like he was kind of doing that T formation, if it was more being in a meditative state. So we still have the same like wooden T axis that he's kind of like hanging from, but it doesn't look as creepy or scary maybe, I think, as what it could have looked like realistically, because I kept playing with it and moving things around and rotating him and doing different positions, and nothing really seemed right. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if I just had him hanging almost like he was like meditating, because you can't even really see that anything is tied to his feet. So he's suspended, but more in thought. And obviously hanging upside down. And I thought it would be cool to create these little rings that were gonna be in the water, these ripples. That was more that intellect and that insight that you kind of get when you pull this card up. So that was definitely more of a modern take on the Hangman. We've got the Death card, which obviously one of my favorites, but I really like this one because I didn't want to stray too far from the original. You've got the castles in the background, the daybreak. Obviously you've got the white horse Death is riding in, the poppies that are going to be at the bottom of the frame, the children or the younger people that you see, and also like the man that's getting kind of thrown off by Death riding in, and then the daybreak in the background, the flag that is, you know, got the rose on it. So I like this one. I think this one's pretty cool. We've got Temperance, pretty standard. Basically the mountain scene, 1 foot going into the water, the chalice, any connection also to the angel and healing. The Devil card. So this one was cool because I was really wanting to create something that was going to look realistic. So when you think of the devil, you know, the two that are kind of nude and they're chained, and you know he's making the hand signal, and I was like, well, let's put him in a cave. Let's do something that's going to be a little bit like creepier, like underground. Still having him sit with the pentacle perched up on top, doing the hand motion. And two people looking at each other like, what did we get ourselves into? And you can kind of see at the bottom there's some of the grapes and other things that are symbolic of the images that you see on the Devil card. But I thought that was kind of creepy, more realistic maybe than what you would traditionally see. Tower card. The only thing I think going into this is I did not want to put a big crown on the building. I did not think that that was going to make it look realistic. I liked the idea of having it a little bit angled, so it looks like almost like the image is shaking, or there was an earthquake, or there was something that blows up. Really wanted to focus on keeping the card dark. Like a lot of these cards, some of the heavier cards like the Devil, the Tower, some of them even in the swords, you'll notice they're very dark. And I did that because I really wanted to play with light, and I really wanted to show some of the highlights and some of the image kind of like in motion. You see people falling from the sky, and this is kind of breaking at the foundation. We've got the Star card, which is pretty standard. Obviously, we've got the water pouring between the two chalices. I thought it would be cool to make the sky kind of look a little bit broken up and add some layering, and put it almost like in a field that's surrounding a pond where there was lilies. This is another modern take on the Moon card. So I decided, you know what, all right, we see like a dog and a wolf, and then you see like the crab or like the lobster or the crawfish, whatever it is that's at the bottom. And I was like, let's make the bottom water, but let's make it dark and make it rippled, and still create a scene where you see the dog and the wolf. So we have the wolf that's kind of kneeling. You have all of the highlighting that's going on from the moon. But when you look at down in the corner, you see the ripples of the water, and there's a little crawfish that's in there. I love this one. And we've got the Sun card. So we've got the little babe on the white horse in the sunflowers. The sun is coming out, has the flag. Also, something else that I wanted to do with this is I really wanted to focus more on the light rather than what was kind of going on with the image or even with the horse or the kid. I wanted the light to be dominating most of the card. I wanted it to be all sunlight and then mostly focus on what was going on with like a solar glare, and then have like a bunch of sunflowers that were going to be around the horse. So this one's really beautiful. I love this. We have got the Judgment card. So obviously the trumpet's going up in the air. Everybody's kind of coming out of the caskets or coming out of the ground, being reborn, coming back. Wanted to make this super visually stunning. Lots of whimsical things going on with the different layering. If you guys can see, there's like several different layers here of like mountains, and then obviously the sunlight kind of coming through in this really pretty archway. And then we have the World card, which still kind of paying homage to the original World card. You've got the lion and you've got the bull. Rather than doing some of the other characters, I decided to bring doves in. Really love the lighting. So I thought it would be cool, instead of having her kind of front facing, which is, I think she's usually nude on that card. I decided to put her in a red dress. I thought it would also be cool to really play with some of the lighting and some of the sunlight behind her so you can see through some of the material. Still having obviously the wands in her hand, but representing that kind of completion and really kind of seeing the different elements coming into play with the light and the wind, and this really pretty wreath that's going around her. So those are the majors. We'll kind of quickly shuffle through some of the minors, so that way I'm not keeping you guys here all day. But we've got the Ace of Cups, which I really wanted this to be one of those movement cards. I was like, I want it to see like it's just coming up out of the water. With this big hand holding this chalice that's like flooding over. And when I approached doing the minors, I really wanted to focus on regular color schemes. I wanted to bring in a lot of the elements. So obviously the cups, I really wanted to focus on it being a lot of watery kind of visual images. And we've got the Two of Cups. So we've got a couple that's underneath like a wedding arch. They're kind of cheersing with each other. We've got the Three of Cups of the ladies dancing in a field, celebrating. They have their cups in the air and you see pumpkins around them and all of like the harvest fruit. We have got the Four of Cups, which pretty similar to the original. Somebody who's just kind of a little sad, kind of looking off into the distance, the three cups in front of them. And then the fourth cup that's being offered to them from a cloud. Some pretty cherry blossoms too. The Five of Cups, which I wanted it to be a little bit darker and a little bit more somber. So you see like a widow that's like mourning, looking over a ledge with some really dark flowers, gloomy skies, lots of like water and stuff on the cement. The Six of Cups, little kids that are cheersing each other and offering each other bouquets with this like really whimsical kind of fairy tale downtown area with like the cobblestone streets. And then the cups with the other flowers that are at their feet. So for most of the cards, you're going to see, if it's the swords, the cups, the wands, for the most part, you're going to see all of those numbered, like actual like symbols in each of the cards for most of them. And the Seven of Cups, I think this is one of my favorite ones, other than you'll see the, I like the Page and I like the Queen of Cups, but I really liked playing with this one. This was really fun to do. I like the idea of what are you going to get, what's coming out of the different kind of cups and the images, bringing in this kind of cloudy state, and playing with the highlighting and being able to get lots of like reflection kind of coming off of the cups and the different, you know, kind of creatures. You've got like a little dragon that's coming out of one. You've also got different little motifs and other things that are kind of sitting on top of some of the cups. That one was fun. I liked that one. The Eight of Cups, which obviously walking away from something. So I thought, well, if you're going to leave, you know, you kind of see the path. There needs to be moonlight. We need to see it being an emotional, you know, kind of situation where they're turning their back to something and they're kind of going into the unknown. And then playing with putting all of these shiny gold cups at his feet around some of the rose bushes. This one's fun. This is like the High on the Hog card. Obviously, the Nine of Cups. I thought it would be cool to have like a situation where he has everything, right? Because the Nine of Cups being like that card, that's the wish fulfillment card. So this kind of, you know, fulfilled looking gentleman that's sitting there in all of his royal garb, all of the cups that are sitting in front of him, sitting almost in this like courtyard to like a palace. And all of the different intricate things that we kind of put in the background, we were really focusing on, you know, making it look like it was very regal with the fountains and the flowers. And then the Ten of Cups, which is obviously the family. You see the rainbow, the Ten of Cups that's kind of sitting on a picnic blanket, the kids playing in the background, and them holding hands. We've got the Page of Cups, which is like a pretty girl sitting holding a chalice looking into it, like divining. And then you see all of the fish and the goldfish and the things that are at her feet. The Knight of Cups charging into action. I'm not going to say battle. He looks more like knight in shining armor. And I really wanted to play with the idea of like the water kind of rushing around him, the cup in his hand, the reflection that you're also kind of getting back, that you're seeing reflection from the water and also from the sky. This one's my favorite, but this is also my favorite card. So the Queen of Cups. I like the idea when I was working with the queens and the kings. You're going to see they're all going to be kind of facing in different directions, but most of the kings are right on, and some of the queens you're also going to notice it's a little bit closer up. And I wanted to really see the difference in the scale of looking at the queens and like seeing them a little bit more closely and that opening and that receptiveness versus the kings, which is kind of like a little bit more powerful, you know, overwhelming and not standoffish, but looking at them kind of in awe from a different perspective. This one was my favorite. You know, obviously having her cup, but also focusing on this beautiful cliff scene. I wanted her feet to be in the water. I wanted to see like the sea foam, and I wanted like little fish and little creatures to kind of be around her and all of the shells, and then her dress kind of coming into the waves in the water. And then we have the King of Cups, which you see with his little scepter. We've got the ships coming in the background. You see little fish jumping around him. And obviously the water and all of like the lilies. I like this. I really like the colors that came out with this one in particular. And then as we move to the Suit of Wands, I wanted these to be more whimsical. I wanted these to be warmer. I wanted to see lots of golds and yellows and oranges. And obviously we start with the Ace of Wands. And I thought it would be cool instead of having an actual wand. I was like, I like the idea of it being a branch and something that starts to kind of grow and sprout. So obviously initiating the very first phase of moving into this element. We've got the Two of Wands where she's holding her globe and her wand and she's looking at watching the ships rolling in. We've got the Three of Wands, which I was like, okay, the three amigos, you know, you've got three people who are just coming in, they're getting off of their ships or they're watching the ships roll in and they're getting ready to do trade or they're, you know, kind of planning an adventure or they're taking the first steps of kind of getting to where they need to go. Four of Wands, I imagined it being like a big festival, like or a party. I wanted it to be something outside. I wanted it to look very romantic and kind of classy. I like the idea of everybody having the wands up in the air and being able to kind of be celebrating or, yeah, like cheersing each other in a way. Then it could be a party, it could be a wedding, you know, something like that, because this can be the wedding card. So I thought it would be also cool to have them in formal wear. Five of Wands, you have several little boys out with their wands and they're all kind of play fighting or they're kind of acting like they're using this as swords or, you know, kind of reenacting what can be like a battle scene. I thought that would be cool for the Five of Wands. And the Six of Wands, we see a man on his horse and all of his, you know, like military personnel that are behind him, that are following him, and they're being welcomed back. So it's like a military parade or a homecoming parade or something where people are being recognized and honored. And I like the idea of lining the streets with a lot of people, so you feel like that warm kind of welcoming vibe. It was fun playing with the shadows and stuff here, also being able to make it seem like it was like the middle of the day, and all the brightness and the warmth that's kind of coming from the flags. The Seven of Wands, I wanted to keep that vibe of an uphill battle, you know, or standing your ground, or I guess being like king of the hill. So I thought it would be fun to do this at a slant, also to make it look like even though there's this guy that's getting bum rushed by all of these people, he's standing up to them and he's holding his wand that's on fire, basically being like, back off. And then you see other people who also have like little wands and stuff that are kind of chasing them that are coming down the hill. So he's getting like rushed. The Eight of Wands, I really wanted to focus on doing something that was going to be, I think, a little bit more lively than just looking at 8 wands. I like the idea of kind of being outside, seeing a lot of fresh plants and flowers, imagining that it's, you know, the middle of the day, it's warm outside, rather than just seeing a bunch of like arrows or something that's being pointed in a particular direction. And lighting the tips of them on fire, so it would kind of represent that passion and excitement, and also the potential for things to be able to grow and evolve or go in a new specific direction. The Nine of Wands we see as like a warrior or, you know, a military guy that's standing, and he's all kind of wounded, he's bandaged, he's guarding a gate, and he's kind of like protecting the space so it can't be kind of intruded on. And then you see several of the other men that are also standing there, and they're all kind of protecting this gate and trying to kind of, you know, hold down the fort. And then for the Ten of Wands, I wanted to approach this more in a sense of needing to prepare for something, needing to close a cycle. So going out into the wilderness and collecting, you know, like branches and wood and anything that you can throw into a fire, or having that kind of stockpiled for the winter. And needing to feel like you need to get it all done and have it appropriate and ready to go before, you know, a certain cycle closes or before the sun goes down. Love the colors in the sky on that one. We've got the Page of Wands in a full dress, kind of out in the desert. I thought this would be more fun, kind of whimsical, doing something that was a little bit different than some of the other themes that we saw in the water. Also, I thought it would be kind of cool to put cactus and be like, well, let's put like some pyramids or something in the background so it looks like it's like a completely different world. We've got the Knight of Wands that's in action. He's got his full mask, his helmet, his cape, riding through the desert, and he's holding on to a wand and charging in the air. Queen of Wands obviously had to come in super hot. Needed to have the black cat. We needed to have the sunflower and the scepter, but also I like the idea of focusing on all of the warmth that's around her, the flowers that are growing, the richness of the color of the materials, the shine on her hair, and really making it seem super, super powerful and also a little provocative. And then we've got the King of Wands, who is sitting there in his throne. His garment is all covered in all of these different like salamanders and lizards, and he's got little lizards that are at his feet. And I wanted to create something almost that looked like the Grand Canyon, or something that was almost like Utah, or I wanted to see like the banded red mountains and stuff behind him. And you see that there is like the sprout that's coming out of his scepter. And that is the wands. And then we've got the swords. So the Ace of Swords coming in, and you're going to notice that now things are going to get a little bit cooler. So I wanted to do a lot of grays. I wanted to do a lot of like muted kind of blues. I wanted a lot of clouds, really working on the element of air, how maybe stressful or anxious this particular element can be, but also the changing of the mood as we're kind of going through this suit. Two of Swords had to kind of stick with the original symbolism with this. I did think it would be a little more fun maybe to put her in an environment where you can see the moon and the stuff that's behind her, bringing in a little bit of like a water or an ocean scene as well. Three of Swords, sticking to you know, the traditional symbolism. Thought it'd be fun to bring in some lightning, also bringing in some flowers and other things that were going to really kind of make this pop. Similar to the Death card, you know, wanting to have the towers there and also wanting to kind of talk about, you know, moving from one phase to another in the journey. We've got the Four of Swords, pretty traditional, different angle. I wanted to play around a lot with angles in this one. So instead of looking at something dead on, I wanted it to almost look more realistic and three-dimensional. So you see the knight obviously in like a morning fashion where he's resting, but really, you know, he's been put to rest. And it's almost like funeral-like scene. I really liked also being able to play with, you know, putting this all on the wall at an angle, bringing the lights in through the glass. The Five of Swords, which is also, I think, a card that's about standing your ground, but this can also be being in a situation where you're not going to back down, even though there could be some dangerous things kind of going on around you. He's got a few swords on the ground. He's got 3 in his hands. And then obviously there's people that are coming and charging him in the background. The Six of Swords, which I thought would be cool to like put the swords in the sky, you know, almost like the clouds are parting and it's kind of showing that things are clearing up. And, you know, even though there is some stress and tension, that there is like a transition that's kind of taking place. Really fun playing with some of the water stuff here. I thought it'd be cool to kind of create a foggy scene where there's like some mist. Seven of Swords, wanted to do something that was going to be more almost, you know, from a different perspective. Like I think in the Seven of Swords, you see, you know, he's walking away and he's kind of looking back and there's like this trickster that's like coming in or out of a camp. So I thought it would be cool. What if there was this concept where, you know, you had an intruder or somebody who was coming in that was wanting to invade like a foreign army's camp. And he's collecting swords and he's taking things and looking around, making sure he's not getting caught. So you see some of the British flags, you see the camp that's set up in the background, you know, he's walking in or walking out, and there's several swords that are in the ground, but he's also collecting swords and taking things with him. So it's like a bit of like a trickster energy. Eight of Swords, wanted to really focus on obviously setting the mood and creating an environment where, you know, she's not actually stuck. Maybe she's surrounded by the water and the emotion and like the kind of conflict that's coming up. Maybe there's some anxiety revolving around the situation, but her hands are free and she's blindfolded. And she's got all these swords that are stuck in the ground that are around her. So it's kind of playing on the theme of that card that, you know, it can be purely psychological, why you're stuck. You may not be able to see a situation. Same thing with the Nine of Swords. Obviously that's like it's a dark card and you may be able to see this with the lighting, but right along the wall, you see all of the swords. So the 9 swords are above her, and I wanted to create almost like somebody's sleeping in this attic that's in a Victorian home, and the light's kind of coming through, and she's having nightmares, she's having trouble sleeping. And so as you start to see the image kind of open up in the center, you can see all of the swords that are above her, disrupting her sleep. And then the 10 of Swords, where you see like a beach scene, the sun is setting, and you see a guy that's laying on the ground and he's got the 10 swords that are coming out of his back. So he's laying flat like somebody attacked him, and then he had all of the swords kind of take him out, and that's where he died. I know, morbid stuff, but that's what the deck's about. And then we've got the Page of Swords. So the young little page with his sword in the sky, and looking towards the storm and trying to channel the energy and the information that's coming in. Really liked this one. I thought it'd be cool to create a horse that looked different because I wanted something that was more muted and a little bit like more, you know, dark grays and blacks and creams. Really wanted to show him emotion. So you kind of see some of the imaging, things are fuzzy. And so it's intentionally like that. You'll notice that for some of the cards in the deck. It was done so that way it could look like it's in motion. But he's got his sword up in the air, he's charging, and he's in full attire. We've got the Queen of Swords, which obviously she's got the butterflies around her. I wanted to have like all these clouds swirling around her. Wanted to dress them in blue. I thought it would be better for the element. And obviously you were seeing a progression also with some of the ages of the queens. You're noticing that they're starting to get a little older. And really playing off of some of the golds and the blue. I think it actually came out really beautifully. And then we've got Mr. King of Swords. Similar energy. Thought it would be better to put him at a higher elevation. So even though she's kind of etheric and in the clouds, I thought it would be cool for him to have a higher perspective. Holding his sword, and he's obviously sitting there, and you can kind of see all of the mountains and the things that are around him. And then finally, we have the Suit of Pentacles. So we've got the Ace of Pentacles coming out of the sky with all the really pretty lilies and the ace. This was fun because I wanted to create the deck for the most part to look really hyper, you know, like realistic. Some things could look realistic, but other things look more fantasy based. And as I approached creating this particular suit, I wanted things to look very real. I wanted them to look really rich. I wanted a lot of wood colors. I wanted things that were going to look realistic and authentic. So with creating the Two of Pentacles, for me, I was like, well, I like the idea of it being like this gesture. I like the idea of him, instead of, you know, kind of juggling, maybe he's tossing coins, or, you know, he's passing them back and forth, or like doing a magic trick. Still playing with like the rocky sea in the background. With the traditional Rider-Waite, you're going to see the waves that are kind of going on with the boat. So still wanted to create that same environment, but I thought it'd be cool to like almost make it look like Italian or something. This gesture that's, yeah, tossing his coins. And then we have the Three of Pentacles, which you have the three monks that are working together in this big room. And the pentacles you have to find, you have to kind of look for them, but they're in the stained glass. And he's holding a pentacle too, and they're working together. Really like the light play and stuff here. And then we've got the Four of Pentacles. So we've got like the Scrooge, who's like unwilling to spend or let go of his coins, and he's holding on to it. Also in motion, like hyper realistic, but things that are kind of faded out in the background. The Five of Pentacles, where you see the two like peasants in the street, and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pentacles covered with a wreath, walking in the snow, obviously showing, you know, that they're kind of down and out. The Six of Coins or Pentacles, where you see the wealthy merchant, people at his feet, and tossing coins, being very generous with all that stuff there. Like the idea of it being like in a city center or like a marketplace, and, you know, him being willing to, here, you know, go get yourself something nice. The Seven of Pentacles, had to kind of stick with the traditional here, thought that it'd be really cool to make it look hyper realistic, where there was like a farmer in the field, and rather than worrying about his crops, having everything starting to kind of come in and blossom. So he's starting to kind of see what's coming from the seeds that he's been planted, which are the pentacles that are at the bottom of the soil. I like this one too. The Eight of Pentacles, where you see a craftsman in his shop, and you can see the pentacles that he's working on right on his table, that he's finalizing and kind of, you know, critiquing and putting all the details into. And then behind him, you can see that he's got some stuff that's kind of sitting in the bookshelves, almost like a wood shop or something was what I was imagining for that one. The Nine of Pentacles, where you see the maiden walking around, and she's fully cloaked. She's got her hood on. Really wanted to show something really elegant and also kind of like rich with her falcon, and she's walking through the garden, and she's surrounded by the Nine of Pentacles. And then the Ten of Pentacles I like. You guys know me. I have a French bulldog, so I always find ways to kind of pop them into places in some of my horoscopes. But I thought it'd be cool to have like a multi-generational family sitting in a courtyard, very wealthy, very regal, and seeing the kids and seeing the grandparents and seeing the little dog and just like the lifestyle that they've created, and try to frame it with an arch that was going to have all of the pentacles over the top. And then we've got the Page of Pentacles, super hyper realistic. You know, obviously I like the idea of them being in their element. So rather than, you know, maybe dealing with the moodiness of the Page of Swords or the warmth of the Page of Wands, I like the idea of her being in like a wheat field, pretty modest kind of attire, but also physically, you know, holding up that pentacle. And then we've got the Knight of Pentacles, still in motion, a little bit more still than some of the other knights. A lot of the other knights, you see them kind of moving. The Knight of Cups doesn't have a mask. The obviously Knight of Pentacles doesn't have a mask. I wanted to show you that the element of air and fire were like, can't slow down, got to keep going. So I wanted to take some of the masks off or the helmets off. Dark Horse, some of the grain that's also kind of in the foreground, sun setting, and really like the idea of him having dark leather, blacks and browns, longer hair, a little bit earthier in terms of his appearance, and a little bit more approachable as well. And then we have the Queen of Pentacles, which obviously, you know, fully decked out in the woods. Wanted to find a way to either, you know, take the disc, which in some of the decks you see that's kind of sitting on her, either by her feet or on her lap. Thought it'd be cool to put it in front of her. Brought some little forest, little woodland creatures here for fertility, abundance, and also wanted to make some of her features a little bit darker, make her look a little bit different than some of the other queens, where the first two, the Queen of Cups and the Queen of Wands, obviously really youthful. Queen of Swords gets a little bit older and wiser, but this one I kind of imagine she's older, but she's got a little bit darker features, maybe a little bit of pepper coming into her hair. And then we've got the King of Pentacles, which is hanging out in his vineyard, where you can see the castle in the background. I wanted to also bring in the idea of having all of these grapes and everything that are kind of growing, but also having some bowls somewhere in there too. And really wanted to focus on highlighting the richness of the growth and the life and the abundance that would really kind of come through that suit, because that's the final card. So we ended up going through the whole deck. Hopefully that wasn't too long for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And all in all, there you have it. So I hope you guys like it. The Sword and the Rose Tarot is available. Click the links in the description below. Just want to say thank you guys so much for watching. I know this is different content than what we usually put out, but those of you guys who are inquiring and asking about it, the process and all of that, now you have that info. But if you have any questions or comments for me, leave them down below. I'll be sure to answer your guys' questions and give you a little bit more feedback. You guys will be able to see me actually use this deck on the channel. So usually when I do my monthly horoscopes or if I do my monthly taroscopes, we just put the taroscopes out for November. Saw that a lot of you guys really liked that. We've been working on those for the last couple of months, so that's definitely newer content that I'm going to be doing. So every month you'll get a separate horoscope and a taroscope. So if you want one more than the other, hopefully you guys enjoy it. And if you want to see more about me and my work, if you want to learn tarot, I teach tarot, you guys can check out my website below at beyondtheveiltarot.com, and definitely check out my Etsy page if you guys want to see more of that. So tomorrow I'll be here live. I'm going to be doing live readings on the channel. We're going to be doing new moon readings. Obviously, we've got a new moon in Scorpio that's going to be coming up here pretty soon. So hope you guys join me. I'll be here at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That's 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Come hang out and get a reading. I'd love to see you guys there. So until next time, I'll see all of you guys very soon. Thank you so much for your support, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.